That's why I don't speak about the negotiation. That's why you've never seen any contract proposal that we've ever offered, because our agreement was that would be between Lamar and myself. And so because of that, when I see a report like that, it's not like I can clarify it, because our agreement was that we would keep everything between the two of us.
You mentioned some of the complicated dynamics with this. What makes this negotiation so much different and more challenging than other ones?
I think a big part of it is just what was addressed is he's representing himself. You know, I would say that's challenging in a lot of ways, and so yeah, I would say that's a big part of it.
With Roquan, though, that didn't seem to be as you all got that pretty quickly. Is there a difference between those two guys, and they both don't representation?
I mean, Roquan and I had a lot of conversations over the course of the season. Things kind of heated up towards the end. I think we did Roquan's negotiation. He was in Baltimore. Lamar, which was his decision, and I respected it, and I see why he did it, and I think it was good. Wanted to focus on football. It's always easier to have some conversations in person. So, with Roquan, he was in the building every day. And that dynamic alone, I think, sometimes makes things a little bit easier. I mean, with Ronnie Stanley, for instance, that took a long time. But we talked all season in my office. And I'll make a joke, but Ronnie will laugh. Sometimes I couldn't get him to leave my office, because Ronnie likes to talk. And we would talk about Netflix shows and everything else, but we talked a lot about his contract that season. So, there's a lot of those dynamics are a factor. It is what it is. But again, those aren't, quote, deal breakers. We can work around a lot of these issues. We haven't yet, but I'm confident and optimistic that we will at some point.
Eric, you guys have been at this for over 2 years now. With the deadline coming up, are there decisions that Lamar has to make that will add to your clarity about just what to do with this whole situation?
Yeah, a negotiation, a true good faith negotiation, means that both sides have to understand the other side's position and make concessions. Every negotiation that I've ever been a part of, which has been quite a few over the last 4 years, as you guys know, it's been a give and take. And that's what good faith means. It means you respect the other position, you give up something to get other things. Both sides typically will move in a negotiation to some degree and find a common ground. And that's what it's all about. So as we always move, whatever we move to, and sometimes it's like, different things we want, we don't want, ideas we have, we're throwing out different ideas. Lamar's throwing ideas to me, I've thrown ideas to him. We have to appreciate the position of the other person. We have to respect the other person's position, where they're coming from. And we have to be willing to consider that this might be really important to them. And if it is, what are we willing to give up in basically in exchange for something that's really important to you? So it's a negotiation, but it has to be a good faith negotiation based on trust, respect, and listening to the other person. Otherwise, it won't work.
Do you feel positive momentum here? I mean, you said yourself you just talked to him recently. I know you've been reluctant to kind of characterize because people are sort of riding the emotional roller coaster on everything you say on this. But are you still confident, optimistic, and feel like there's enough momentum there where you're working under a tight time frame here that you can get something done?
Yeah, the time frame, to me, it is a time frame. However, it's also a time frame that isn't necessarily like a hard time frame, meaning we can continue to negotiate. By franchising Lamar, that doesn't exclude us getting a long-term deal done, and that's been done 1,000 times in the league. So, yes, there is a time frame, but the time frame does move, albeit now there are some different dynamics involved. I don't want to live in a world where there's no optimism, where I'm just going to give up hope. You guys see me during games, and sometimes I'm in a dark place at the end of the game when I know there's no hope. We've lost the game. I don't see that here, and I won't feel that. I won't see that here. I refuse that, because I've seen a lot of deals happen when things look bleak, or I haven't seen deals when I would have thought, oh, it's a slam dunk. It takes two people to do it, It takes communication, it takes respect, it takes appreciation for each other, and it takes an understanding of the greater good and how this thing is going to fit together. So I remain positive. I have no reason not to remain positive. We've spoken recently. We've had good meetings recently, and so we'll see what happens.
Eric, just long-term planning-wise, you guys have got some guys who would be eligible for extensions coming up. Just the idea of kind of having cost certainty with Lamar and
Sure.
not having to worry about this from year to year. As a guy who spends as much time planning for the future, how much of a wrench does not knowing what it might take, what it might cost beyond this year, whatever?
Well, that's a great question. That is a great question. It is a wrench. You don't know. And so, yeah, it slows you up a little bit. It is a little bit, it does kind of, create a little bit of a haze as to what the future is going to look like with your roster. There are some things that we're not going to do right now that maybe we would try to do. But, there's no bigger question right now, no bigger decision, there's no bigger challenge for this organization moving forward than this contract. So all of my effort, most of my effort is focused on this. I would say the rest of it is focused on the draft and free agency. But you're right, it's hard to really have a clear vision of what the future is going to look like until we can get this contract done.
Eric, do you have a lot of GMs approaching you about? I mean, everybody here is looking for a quarterback. I mean, are there a lot of teams kind of waiting to see what you do, asking if you'd be interested? I mean, you've said all along your focus is on extension, not on potential trade.
Yeah.
But at some point, when you talk about lining up contingency plans and all that, like, do you have to consider that as an option?
Listen, I think, Jeff, you might know this. Jameson definitely knows this, but I don't know if you know. We've probably made more trades than just about any other team in the league. Maybe we're second. That being said, I covet great players. I covet quarterbacks, and I covet great players, and I love Lamar. And so that has not factored in one time with me. We want to do what's best for the club. We're trying to do what we can for Lamar. We want to make everybody happy. We want to make the Ravens happy. I want to make Steve happy. I want to make Lamar happy. I want to make our fans happy.
Yeah, you can do two more, guys.
Just how important is this week in terms of the information gathering process, in relation to just what you guys decide to do with the exclusive versus non-exclusive type decision?
It's not that important really this week. A lot of our work has been done, we've been working on this for so long. This week is really more about two things. Me being engaged with Lamar, two, evaluating the guys here. I can't do my job as a GM if I don't know these players, because we do have a draft coming up, and that's a critical part of our organization, our foundation for how we build our team. So being here means I need to be here and present, and I have to know these players. I have to study these players. I have to come out of this combine knowing who the best guys are for our club.
You guys you made a change in strength and conditioning. Can you just talk about, I guess, Scott, one, and kind of how that fits into the ongoing, not that it's completely related to injuries, but the ongoing quest to avoid injuries and have players in the best health possible?
Yeah, well, I think we made good strides this year, so that was great. I think our training room did an awesome job. I was encouraged by the performance people. We put some new programs in place, new ways of doing things. Injuries were definitely down. We got guys back faster, which I think is a huge, call it return to play. It's a huge thing. I think Scott will do a great job. Got a lot of energy, smart guy, innovative. I think he'll do an awesome job. So I think John got a good one. We're lucky to have him, and I think he'll have a big impact on the team.
Eric, do you expect Calais? I mean, Calais has made clear he wants to be back. I know you have a special relationship with him too. Do you expect him to be back? I know it might be a contract you have to work through, but do you expect him to be back?
We'll make those decisions at some point. There will be some tough decisions that we have to make with the roster, like there are every single year, but it's it's a shell game, and some of that we do now. There's agents here, and we're talking to different people. It's not necessarily Calais, it's not necessarily other guys, but we're always looking at how can we get better, how can we build the best roster, understanding that the salary cap is a real constraint, and so we got to do what we think is best for the club. Those are tough decisions. You know, I remember in 19 when I just first took over, I had to make the tough decision to move on from Eric Weddle. We lost CJ. We didn't sign Terrell and Zadarius. And you know, I almost got run out of town before I was even a GM, basically. Those are hard decisions. And so every season, when the new league year opens up, you know that you're going to take on some water and you're going to have to make some tough choices about the team, because we're not just trying to win this year, we're trying to win 4 years from now as well.